Settle down, settle down, settle down. Big shout out to our live in studio audience. I'm super excited for today's episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and welcome into another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. I am super excited because not only is this our 100th total episode, like between all the bonus content, mainstream content, but I get to podcast with my own dad, my own father, my own whatever he is to me, whatever you want to call him. Uh, my kids call him Pops. It's my dad, Justin. Dad, how you doing tonight?
Oh, hey, I'm doing fine. I'm Justin Dawson. I'm Jay's dad. Nice to see everybody here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So let me give the audience the story real quick. I'm gonna give them the story of us, if I would make a Taylor Swift reference there. So, Forrest Gore many years ago, you met my biological mother. You guys did the thing. I was born 9 months later, and I went to live with my grandma Pat, which is my biological mom's mom. You were still in the picture. I saw you occasionally grow. As far as I remember, I don't know how often it was really, but I saw you growing up. We lived in the South Seattle area. I lived with Grandma Pat. You lived, I think, somewhere close or kind of ish. I don't really know. You can fill in those details when it's your turn. Uh, Fast forward, growing up, I didn't really get to see you a lot after like age 3, maybe 4. At least I don't remember it. Uh, Fast forward throughout my childhood, I'm always told that your dad's no good, he's not the best person, he's an addict, and all these things. So the picture that was painted for me was really negative. And so then fast forward a few more years, I'm 13, 14 years old. I'm living in Hawaii with my maternal grandfather and step grandmother, and they encouraged me to reach out to you. There was something I didn't know that I obviously needed to know, and I was pushed in that direction to do it. Full support, full everything. So I reach out to you, and I'm pretty sure I cussed you out in the first message on Facebook. If I remember, it was a ton of anger. It was a ton of just spite, hate, everything. And then the rest of the picture was painted for me. You came down to Hawaii because, I mean, what better excuse than to come to Hawaii than to see your son you haven't seen in 10 plus years? For all the reasons that I never knew, the reasons that I later found out growing up that I then had to have a conversation with my grandmother about was I was supposed to see you kind of like how a parenting plan works with holidays and vacations and trips and all those fun things, saying that you, as long as you gave enough notice and gave a plan and provided the transportation to and from and all those details, the logistical stuff, it was supposed to happen, but it didn't happen because you were told that I didn't want to when I didn't even know it was an option or a thing that could happen. And so then fast forward, one day I get to see the court papers, what it was supposed to be my whole life. And then I go and visit you in Oakland. I'm about 14, 15 years old. And then pretty much, as they say, the rest is history after that. I was with you throughout high school, multiple different schools. You saw me off to college. You took me to college and you saw me through that really crucial stage in my development with being a teenager, becoming a man, really changing my lifestyle and my overall health and well being, helping me heal and grow up and mature, taught me how to drive, taught me all these just valuable life lessons. And you were just a great dad overall. Looking back, you didn't hover. You pushed me to do all the things that if I said I was going to do it, you said, well, you better do it then. If that's what you're committing to, then this is what you're committing to and you're going to do it. Uh, Never really pushed me as long as I communicated with you, told you what was going on, told you where I was, who I was with. You never really had a problem. I had a phone for a reason, and that phone was to communicate with you. And from there, the rest is history. Now I'm almost 30. You have 2 grandkids. So that's a little bit about our story for the listeners if the people didn't know. So, Dad, any parts of that you want to fill in, speak to, or anything like that?
Uh, well, I don't know what Grandma Pat was telling you, but for
Nothing.
one, but for one, just to clarify, I was like never an addict. I've never used any drug in my entire 50 years, just to clarify that. Unless you count
Hmm.
like mushrooms or weed or alcohol, but I don't
No.
overindulge in that. But anyway, so just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, so basically me and your mother we were never together. We had a 6 week one night stand. We never argued, we never fought. It was never bad. We were always very like respectful of each other. And then one day she kind of like was gone, which was fine. I wasn't tripping so much. And then I had actually already moved to California when you were born. I had just moved to California. Maybe I just moved to Oakland. Maybe you were born in April. I mean, maybe two
Yeah.
weeks before. Yeah, maybe 2 weeks before you were born, I moved to California. And so I had came back to California to get some of my stuff, and then I got a call from who was it? I had knew she was pregnant because my friends had told me, but I didn't really know anything because she just kind of left and went to L.A. and then I don't know what she did there, and then and so then somebody called. I think your mom called me. She's like, "Hey, I had just got to Seattle. It's like 21, and I already had another kid that was 3 years older than Jewel. I had when I was like 18, like a month after my 18th birthday. So anyway, I get a call like, "Hey, Justin, your baby's here." I'm like, "Huh?" They're like, "Yeah, you can come see him." I'm like, I just got back to Washington. Well, you should come see your baby. And so I said, all right. And so I went. They were living up on Beacon Hill or something. His mother was like, I think Jewel was like 2 weeks old. She's like, well, I already signed the rights over to my mother, so you can't do anything. I'm like, uh, okay. And so then I'm like, all right. And so then I went back to California and already had started a family. I had already started I had gotten married. I had my stepson, which I raised since he was 3 months old or 4 months old or something. And him and Jewel are 2 months apart. So I had already
3.
started three, yeah. So I already started my family with my wife, and I had her son, and then my other daughter would come and visit us in the summertime, and then we ended up having eventually three more kids. But that's a whole nother story. I don't want to get too sidetracked because we're talking about Julie, baby Julie.
Whatever. Anyways, fun fact about me and my stepbrother Joe is that my dad, for years, even to this very day, Dad, is my birthday on the 16th or the 19th?
It's on the 16th. It's on the 16th.
Okay,
On
you
the
got it right
16th.
this time, but for my entire for more than half of my life, my brother's birthday is the 19th, mine is the 16th. My dad's not the smartest chip off the old block, but he always got our birthdays mixed up. So I explicitly remember, as I've been an adult, getting calls on April 19th with from you or text saying happy birthday. And I'm like, my birthday was 3 days ago, but thank you. And you feel real bad for a second before
No, I
just
don't.
laughing it off.
No, I don't. I'm like, yeah. Well, at least I acknowledge it. So whatever.
Yeah, it's at least an acknowledge. It's better than
Yeah.
nothing. Um, but no, so yeah, that's the whole addict thing. That's what I was told. I never, obviously, I knew better once I met you and lived with you that that wasn't true. So that kind of came all full circle, maybe 5, 6 years ago with me and Grandma Pat talking about it. And I straight up asked her, just really, really frankly, like, why was it like that? Like,
Did
what
you? Did you real quick? But did you know I used to work with your grandma Pat at the grocery store when I was 14?
at Red Apple?
Yeah.
That red apple, oh, I loved that red apple growing
Yeah.
up.
No,
I used to go in
no,
there
but
all the time.
I worked with I worked with grandma Pat for like a year, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to finish my thought.
You're good.
But like, I've always worked. Like, I've always worked, and so, and I even worked with her. But anyway, she was just kind of, I don't know. I don't really know what her issue. Well, I don't know what her issue was.
I mean, I think some of it stems from kind of how she grew up in the household and the time when she grew up and whatnot. She grew up in the 50s and the 60s. So she grew up post World War II in, post just into the segregation times and integration times in the world and in the country. So I don't think she'll ever admit it. She's definitely changed now, but knowing her and growing up with her, there was definitely probably some of that rooted in race and color and things that shouldn't have mattered, but did matter to her because of just how she grew up and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I had talked to her about it. I asked her, she said she didn't really make any excuses. She owned up to all of it, and she's like, I really wish I would have done things different, and how'd you go with him and spend time with him? Like things, I think you would have been so much better off. And now she talks just so highly of you. She talks so highly of you. She asks about you every time I talk to her. She's like, "How's your dad? How is he doing? What's he up to?" And just always is asking about you, talking about you. Same for my aunt Tanya. She actually, growing up, never said bad things about you. And I was thinking about it a while back, but now thinking about it again, she never really said anything like negative about you growing up. In fact, she always backed you like my entire like childhood. Whenever my grandma would start to say anything negative or not great about you, she would always correct her. She would always put a stop to it.
No, that was nice
And
of her.
yeah, so that's just really interesting. So that's kind of our lineage story, the story that I'm going to tell the kids. Um, about their pops, but for you, so my older sister, she's 3 years older than me. She turns 34 this year, I believe. She just posted. That's the only reason I'm thinking I remember this right now. I believe she turns 34 this year,
No,
33,
no, no.
thirty-four,
She'll be 32. 33, 33, 33.
30, 33. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just posted it was 30 something. So she's a few years older than me. She's 4 years older than me. I turned 29 this year. Um, but when you were like 18 and had your first kid, what the heck went through your mind? Like you were young, fresh out of high school, working. I believe you were working in food at the time, right? Working in kitchens and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of like, I was just kind of, it didn't really phase me. I'm like, I'm having a baby, and I was working, and then, I mean, like, we were actually together though, like, me and Rashana's mom, my older daughter, we were actually like together. Like, we were like a couple. So we were together, and she was 14 when she got pregnant, and I was 17. And there was a lot of family support with her mom and her grandmother because her grandmother, Rashana's grandmother, was 32 when she was a grandmother. So it was like, and then and then Rashana's great grandmother was six. They were all 16 years apart. So basically, Rashana's mother was 15 or 16 when she had Rashana, and then she was 15 or 16. So they were all like 15 years apart. But anyway, so she had a lot of family support. Initially, my mother had a complete like heart attack, and then she stepped up a bunch, and then basically Rashana's mother wasn't really ready to have a kid, and we were kind of I was kind of still, player, and I wasn't really ready to have like one girlfriend, and so she got mad at me basically, and so she kind of got kind of fucked up in the head when that kind of happened, and she went and um she got another. She was going to school, and I don't know what happened, but basically, and I ended up with Rashana full time. So it was just me and Rashana at my mother's house for 2 years, and her mother wasn't really in the picture. Um, and then it was her grandmother helped, but not her great grandmother helped. Willie Mae Duggan, she just died about a month ago. She's like 82 or 88. But anyway, so I had Rashana. I just worked, and my mother helped me, and me and Rashana just hung out. Wasn't anything to me. It's just you have a kid and you take care of your kid, and we had fun, and it's always cool to be like, I have a daughter. So it was just it didn't phase me. I actually was, but then what did happen that did affect me is that I actually had a full scholarship, not a full scholarship, but some partial scholarship, because I was like a 4.0 student in high school. So I had a scholarship to Hampton University, and so basically I left. Rashana was born in July, after a month after I graduated from high school, and I was supposed to leave in August. So I left to college, and I was like there a week, and I'm like, I'm not college. I need to go kind of take care of my kid and work. So I stayed in college for a week on a scholarship, and said, nah, I gotta go. And it was a good college. I don't know what I would have been. I guess it would have mattered. It was like historical black college of Virginia, Hampton University. And then I stayed a week, came back, and I was already kind of cooking and working in restaurants. So I had my other little things I was doing. I would flip cars, and um, I always had some little hustle going on, and maybe 2 jobs or 3 jobs. And then when Rashana was 3, when I was 21, I had a really bad mental breakdown when I was like 21 or 22. But I was kind of just in the streets too much. I had, I had gotten shot. I had gotten shot when I was 18. I think, when Rashana was about 6 months old, I got shot, but I was just kind of in the streets, and then I just kind of got caught up and had a little breakdown and packed up and just kind of cut. I just left, came to Oakland, and never looked back. And then my mother kind of took care of Rashana, and her grandmother took care of Rashana. But me and Rashana had a parenting plan, so she would come and visit every single summer and on spring breaks, and we maintained a good relationship over the years. And then so that was her. And then Jewel came when I was 21. I kind of found out about him after he was born, and then she's like, so after that I was already married, so we actually went to court, and I legally, because his mother gave him his now legal name of Jewel, but when he was 2 and we did the DNA test, so he is actually mine, like the Mari, like you are the father sort of shit. But anyway, so we actually did the DNA test, but I kind of already knew. I was just kind of I was trying to drag the child support out. I was just like, man, get some more time to pay or whatever. So I got the DNA test, and then and then I was already married. I had my own apartment. I had a job, and we had other kids. And so I tried to go back to Seattle and get them. And Grandma Pat just stonewalled me. Basically, she basically wouldn't participate. She like participated, but she just stonewalled me. And the court was like, nah, he's been there for 2 years, so he can stay. And I'm like, and she goes, and then they're like, well, you can have your, like usual, so like the visits, and you have to like do video calls and call them and write letters and visit them. And so I was doing all that, but then I think when he was about 6 or 7, because he was like 3 or 4, he was like just born then. I think when he was, so I kept that up till you're about 5. And then after that, I just kind of got busy with life, and your grandmother Pat kept stonewalling me. And then I knew where you were because I was paying the child support. And then when you were like 7 or 8, you just disappeared off the face of the earth because she didn't want me to find you. So she took you off the child support, sent you to Hawaii without asking me or doing anything, or if I even wanted to see you or anything, and shipped you
No,
off to Hawaii.
I went to Hawaii when I was like 13, 12, 13.
Yeah, well, okay, so maybe it was then, but yeah, so then they shipped you off, and then we looked for you and you were there. No, because we couldn't find you from the time that you were like 9 until you were like 14. Because my mother was looking for you, and I was looking for you, but we
Okay,
didn't have your address.
that
I,
makes sense.
yeah, I mean, because what happened is she took you off child support, so I couldn't find you. She was
Oh,
just that person. And
okay, no,
so
no, no,
then,
that makes sense.
yeah, I mean, and so then I tried to get custody. I changed your legal name back to Dawson because I'm Justin Dawson, and he's not Jewel Dawson or Jay Dawson or whatever the fuck it is. But anyway, but then and so then and then he tried to. And then we found each other on Facebook, and this motherfucker tried to get attitude with me, get all huffy puffy, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, look, motherfucker, you don't know nothing. Like, dude, like I'm like, you're fucking out of your mind. And so I fucking wrote him a letter. I don't know if he remembers the letter. And then I sent him the court papers so we can kind of see that I wasn't lying because he thought I was
Yep.
just full of shit. So I sent him the court papers. I wrote him a
Mm-hmm.
really long letter. And then he came with me when he was 14. And then he like basically didn't come back. And oh boy, they were pissed. You can't do this. You can't just take him on. They were just going
Oh
on and
yeah.
on and on and on and on. And I'm like, dude, don't even talk to me. Like, why are you even talking to me? Like, you can't talk to me. Like, he's 14. He can make a decision. Don't even tell me nothing. And then
That's
she was,
true.
and then they could never tell me nothing anyway. Cause anyway, that's why they stopped talking to me because I wouldn't listen to them. And then then he came, and then he stayed, and then he was like a Mormon. So I used to take him to like the Mormon Bible school at 6 o'clock in the morning, which is 5 days a week, which was cool. I'm so anti-religious. You know what fucking Jay did to me this one time? This motherfucker, I kept telling him, like, dude, I'm not religious. I don't want to be religious. I'm never going to be religious. I hate church. I'm not going to church. It's not that I don't believe in God. I just think organized religion is bullshit. And I still feel the same way. So, but
Very
I'm
true.
not, I mean, but I'm not, I'm not judgmental of anybody's beliefs or who they want to believe or what they want to believe. It's really got nothing to do with me. And hell, if it makes them happy, then who am I to say, you know? So basically, and then Jewel tried to fucking like convert me to Mormonism with this little chick from the Mormon temple. And then she finally left, and I was polite. And then I said, "Motherfucker, don't ever try to do that again, man. Like ever, 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 ever."
So that makes sense. Kind of the so I'm gonna go from a recap that. So that timeline makes a lot of sense because I remember we were living South Seattle, like I don't even remember where, but it wasn't our house in Burien. And then we moved to the house in Burien because I started going to Head Start in Burien. So that makes sense if it was around like age 4 and 5. Because I started going to the Head Start in Burien, and that's like when my memories like that's like the point I remember from forward. I don't remember anything before that really. I remember one time because I don't know how I remember this, but Rashana was there, I was there. I don't think Josh was born yet, but Robert was
No.
there, and he was little.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Robert was born in 99, 98,
98, I think he was born. 98.
98.
Yeah.
So he's 3 years younger than me. So I had to be 6 because this dude was walking and talking, and we were at a park somewhere in Seattle. I want to say we were kind of down by the zoo area somewhere. I think we had gone to the zoo or going to the zoo, but you'd taken us to a park first. And
Yeah, I remember.
I remember Robert was in the tunnel talking about his little wee wee. I don't remember. I don't know why I remember this so clearly, but Rashana and I were just like, "What the heck is wrong with you?" Rashana almost. I think Rashana hit him, made him start crying, and then I got in trouble for hitting him because Rashana reached over me and hit him, and so he thought I hit him. So then I got in trouble, and then Joseph's just there, and I'm just like, I don't even know you guys. I thought I was just going to the zoo, kind of thing. But then no, you're right. Contact just stopped after that. I don't remember no calls, no letters, no nothing
No, no,
after
no, no. She
visit.
literally just stonewalled me. She fucking stonewalled me.
Yeah, I don't remember nothing. That's why that's when all the negative like talks like I remember it being in that time period between like 6 and 12. After that visit, I had to be like 5 or 6 years old because Robert was like 2 or 3. Um, and so after that, we lived in Burien because I lived in Burien all the way from kindergarten all the way up through 5th grade. We lived there in Burien at the Second Avenue house. 6th grade, we moved to Mill Creek. We moved closer to Tanya, so we moved to North Seattle. Uh, again, I don't. Again, still not talking to you. We're living close to Tanya. Uh, all these things. Go to school for a year. Um, no, all the way up through until 7th grade. We moved while I go when I go into 7th grade, and I'm going to 7th grade there. End of 7th grade, everything happens. I get sent off to Hawaii, and then I'm in Hawaii, and then I don't remember what the letter said. I don't even know if I still have it. I don't even know if I still have the court papers or whatever happened to them. They maybe got lost. They could be in a box somewhere. I don't know. I'd have to do a lot of digging for them. But no, I remember that. I remember the court papers, and then it was like, holy shit, what my life like the glass was shattered. Like my glass, my perception of everything was just absolutely shattered after that. It was crazy. Um, but let's fast forward from my childhood into my adult life. I want to talk about when I told you that you were going to be a grandfather. Do you remember your reaction?
Probably something super sarcastic or crass or something in a borderline I don't know what I say.
I remember it clearly. I remember telling you, "Hey, you're going to be a grandpa." I texted you. You called me saying, "What the fuck is wrong with you? I told you not to fucking get her pregnant. I told you not to have no fucking kids. All this shit." 6 months later, and this is actually one of my like great memories that I have like with us as an adult. As I remember you coming to Idaho where we lived because we lived in Pocatello. We went to Fred Meyer's and you actually bought the crib for my oldest kid. I don't say the kids' names on the air, but you bought a crib for her when she was born. Before she was born, I remember us putting it together, and we effed up on that thing like 3 different times. We put
Well,
we
that
put
was your
things on.
fault. That was
No,
that was
no,
that was your fault.
false, false. It's not like you're a contractor or anything. I probably should have been listening to you. Um, I probably should have, but no. So now and then, I got to put that again together again. I did it by myself when we were in Arizona, and when our second one was born, and that fun stuff. But what I'm getting at is from this is when I took it down when um the youngest was out of a crib and when she was done and transitioned to a big girl a bed. I remember just I was taking it apart and I was like, dang, this crib holds so many like memories. And it just flooded me all the way back through the last however many years it was at that point. You being there, your reaction, everything. But yeah, that's what you said to me when you found out you were going to be a grandpa. And then you also were mad at me later. Maybe not mad, but you also had some words because I turned 22 when my oldest was born. After she was born, so I effed up because your mother, my grandmother, Grandma
Yeah,
Karen, her actual name is Karen, so and she lives up to it, all the hype. Uh, you and Karen are exactly 21 years apart, and then you and me are 21 years apart, and I effed it up, and me and my oldest,
yeah,
and then it's
yeah,
at 22, so I effed it up by
yeah.
3 months,
Yeah, you
kind of
screwed it
thing.
all up. You screwed it all up.
So those are the two things I remember from when I told you you were going to be a grandpa. And then fast forward from there, one thing I want to talk about, if you're open to it, a few years later, my younger brother, your son, passes away. And if you want to talk about it, we can. We don't have to. Um, but that was kind of a big moment in everyone's life. I remember coming down to California. I stayed at the one house. I don't remember where the shop was. Um, but one thing I explicitly remember from that trip, outside of the services and everything, was a classic you moment that was the classic even from growing up as a teenager. One thing that you taught me that I take with me that I even try to instill into the girls now is we were walking back home from the little chicken spot. We had some leftovers. Someone approached us, asked us for like food or money, and you were like, "Give them your food. Give them your food. Give them your food." Just not even a second thought about it. And that's kind of how you've always been, and one of those great lessons that you've always taught me is to give when you can. Give if it's just leftovers, give it to someone because those are just going to be your leftovers, but that's someone's next meal that maybe they haven't ate for days or something. And you always instilled that in all of us and taught us to give more than we take, or at least try our best to. And that's one thing I always try to instill into the girls now at their ages, interacting with other kids. Go up to the kid on the playground and talk to the kid that's just playing by themselves. Ask them to play with you and join in. Go and talk to the special needs kid that I can recognize as adult special needs. You have no idea. Go and invite them to play with you. Go and do that thing, or go and do that thing. Go out of your way for that other person. Uh, so for you, where did some of these values come from for you? And what was some of the other things that you tried to instill in us as we were growing up?
It's gonna be some back. I'll bring it back in. You can come grab the other one if you want to. Let me just swap out the charger. Sorry, guys. I don't want to lose this magical moment. I'm trying to make sure I have enough
This
juice.
magic moment. Da 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 dun. Isn't that a song? That's a song, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how the song goes, but I know it's a song.
Let me get this shit plugged in. Like I thought I had my good one, but I
So you can
apparently didn't.
tell if you're listening to this, if you listen to previous podcasts, you can kind of see where my organizational skills didn't come from. Um, I think they skipped a generation because my grandma Karen is actually pretty organized with all the crap I talk about her. She does have some few good qualities about her. So organization is one of them, but it skips my dad and comes to me. So I got lucky in that regard.
I'm not that poorly organized. I have my moments where I am. So I mean, I don't know. I just kind of always been like that. I don't know. I just never really. I just kind of got. I think well now that I'm getting older, like I've have a very high sensitivity to like other people. You know, like their feelings and how they are feeling that day, or kind of where they're at in their head, and then it just like really affects me. You know. And so if somebody's feeling like really, really bad or really, really down, usually I'll try to ignore it at first because it's not really my business. But in certain stances, I kind of do something to maybe make them feel a little bit better about whatever they're doing, if that makes any sense, you know? And like, I never really, I still don't like, and I like to have like stuff that I need, but I'm not really, I don't really care about money or being material, or like, I don't care about those type of things. Um, I like to make money, but that's about the extent of it. It's just fun making money. So I've tried to get good at that just so I can take care of all the people around me. But um, I don't know. It's just always kind of how I've been, you know. I mean, it's just I've always been that way. I think that kind of explains it.
Definitely does. So what what are some things that we missed? Me and my siblings. What are some things that I maybe missed that I didn't get the full message of right away? Maybe it's taken me a couple extra years, but what were some of those things that I missed along the way that I didn't do great of when I was younger? I'm a little bit better now. And be kind.
Common
Uh,
sense.
okay, my common
You
sense.
missed you missed all your young child, pre-teenage common sense training. Like that just wasn't a part of. No, because like Grandma Pat and whatever the lady in Hawaii, like they're just like super like live in their own little sheltered world that doesn't really participate with everybody else's, almost to a point of being antisocial, you know, especially your uh, Grandpa Ron, that motherfucker.
Oh my. Choo
Oh
Choo
my
Ron. Oh
god.
my
Oh
gosh.
my
He
god.
is the best though at the same time.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah, yeah. So,
remember when we were in the van in Hawaii? We were going up to back to the hotel. He was driving us in the big old brown van, all of us, driving us back, and some tweaker runs across the road, and Robert always remembered this. He always held on to it. That was one of the best memories from that trip was he would go, Grandpa Ron yelled, Kraken! And then Robert, for like a year after that, whenever he saw someone tweaking when we were out and about, he would go, Kraken! But no, I think I don't think, I know you're totally right because I was raised an only child up until I came and lived with you,
yeah, so
essentially.
yeah, so I mean, so your whole
I had one
yeah, so
friend,
so you're yeah, so you're and
facts.
I'm like, you're so mean. Like, what do you mean? I'm telling you.
No, it was just
And then
reality, and like I failed
yeah,
to realize
yeah,
it because I didn't get to have that training.
yeah, and then definitely the whole cultural aspect, because even though white, you're like white passing, like you look white.
I'm
You're
mega
not.
light skinned.
No, you look white, but you're not actually like. But you're not actually like. So like you look white and you're culturally white because that's who you grew up with. So I think kind of missing that aspect of being around like other people that could have enhanced your view of the world and other people in it, I guess. You know,
100%, and 100%,
and
like
then
that's super true.
yeah, and then you hung around with all the Mormons, and I won't even go there.
Yeah, let's
I
not
try
go
not
into
to,
that one.
and I try not to talk about race or politics in general because I
Even I,
hint to
even
it.
even
Yeah, I
I
mean,
regret some
yeah,
of
I
a
mean,
lot of
yeah,
that.
yeah, I mean, like I hint to it, but definitely, I think you definitely missed out on maybe being with some people that look a little bit more like you. You know, I think you're definitely extremely whitewashed, and that's okay. You know, that's fine. I mean, you can probably function in a good portion of society. I'm not saying that I'm not whitewashed either. Like I grew up around white kids till I was 13 years old, so at least I understand them, if nothing else. Um, not like them because I know they're people. You know, like them.
anyways, anyways, hold on, let me touch on the whole culture thing. Let me touch on the whole culture thing because it's
Okay, okay,
definitely
okay.
something that's been like a work in progress since I was about 13, 14 years old. You know,
Mhm.
I grew up white, straight up. I barely even knew I was mixed um, for a very long time. Like I was always thought I was white with a weird nose, um, kind of thing. And then I don't remember who it was that told me. I'm pretty sure it was my biological mother actually that she told me that I was mixed or something when I was some age in there. I don't remember when, but and then even living when I lived in Hawaii, I was white and our family was mostly white, so we had a lot of privilege uh, there. I'd already come from a stateside education, so I was already ahead educationally and had a lot of privilege that I failed to recognize. And then living in Oakland with a mixed family, like you're mixed, and then my stepmom's Latina, and so going to family outings and everything, and I'm this little white crackerjack Mormon boy coming into the whole picture here. And it was definitely the biggest culture shock, probably of my entire life, more than going from Hawaii overnight. Like going and going to an event with Norma's family where there's Spanish music playing, there's food I never heard of, there's all the different things that I was just like, this is so weird. And then possibly the very next day, going with my African American side of the family that's there and eh, having a barbecue or whatever with like Damon and the cousins and Aunt Cheryl and all the people was definitely even more weird because it's like, what is this? Like, is this real life? And it was crazy, but it was so cool. And then I think the biggest thing that played into my understanding of like culture and everything for myself when it all really changed was when I went to Baytech. When
Oh
I
yeah.
was when I was there and I was the minority. I was hated on in 10th grade during Black History when we got to slavery and that portion where I received hate for really the first time in my life just because of how I look. And I always remember that grade as like a big turning point. Like, well, I'm not white, I'm also black. And one of the jokes that I remember in that class, I want to say it was by my one of my friends back then, Akeem. He said, "Bro, you owned yourself." And so then from there, like getting to live with you for all those years and experience both sides of it while also trying to learn and navigate who I was and stuff was really impactful to where I took on a whole new appreciation for culture and for all these things. Because then when I got into school and learning about it, and then going into like my field now of mental health and psychology and having to learn about culturally diverse practices, and then being married to a white woman, divorced from a white woman, and now being with a Latina and her, it's just like, oh, holy crap. Like this, I missed this boat. Like one of my best friends in middle school was the like only black kid, Damien. He lived down around the corner from me. He was super cool. So yeah, it was definitely a big turning point, like culturally, for me to try to understand all that and to learn all that. And I definitely did miss it because growing up just by myself, without siblings, without um, real like parental figures, really, um, definitely gave me its limitations. Growing up white, growing up in privilege, definitely I can admit it, I can see it fully for what it was. I grew up with a lot of privilege. I was very privileged, I was very taken care of, but I didn't get a lot of social interaction. Like in elementary school, I had one friend. His name is Zed. He lived down the street. That was like the friend I did everything with. His family was white, but that was like the only friend I had.
Was that
Uh,
your imaginary friend or your real friend?
my real friend Zed. He lived down the street. Zed, short for Zedekiah. And then I remember, like, even like this is one thing that, see, talking about it now, I remember when we lived in that Berrien house. Behind us, at one point in time, this Latino family moved in, Hispanic Latino family moved in, and I was like, I think the girl went to school. We rode the same bus together and everything, but like I remember just a lot of negativity coming from that. Like, don't talk to them, like, don't interact with them, like, they're no good, and all those things. That's why I mentioned the whole thing. Some of it was probably based on race to what I said earlier, because I was kind of raised with that closed minded set, like, um, that white privilege kind of mindset, white America kind of mindset. Like, this isn't who it's supposed to be. We're better, all those things. So it took a real time reality check in real time, at an age where I should have already known it, to really reset those bulbs a lot to set me up for a successful future. Now I really embrace all the different sides. And, I told you a few months ago when I was out of training, I clapped back at some white woman who was going on and on about race. I told you about that, how I clapped her for talking about race, like she was black, she was white, and how she understood it and everything. And I put her in check. So now I really get to appreciate all these different parts of me that make me who I am. And then also my girls are an eighth African American. Um, and I don't remember what that's called. There's a name for
Octoroon.
it. Yeah.
Octoroon.
And you wanted to always call, when my oldest was born, you're like, I'm gonna call her a little Rooney.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Carlos, get out of here.
You're like, I'm gonna call them little Roonies.
I did
Um,
say that. Hold
but
on,
then like,
Carlos. Hold on,
you're
Carlos
good.
is being super nosy. Hold
Carlos is my youngest brother. If you guys are worrying about this, wondering about it, I don't actually know how old he is. I think he's like 7 or 8. He's a little bit older than
on.
my oldest daughter, so it's one of those situations.
He's not coming here. He doesn't want to turn his game off.
Smart, but
Yeah.
but yeah, that whole culture piece, that's a huge one. The religious piece, we're not even going to touch on that. Let's just say I'm in a much better place now, religiously and spiritually, than I ever was before. I'm much happier, much more involved, much more content in my belief system, with where I am now and where I attend church and where I practice and whatnot and how I practice. Um, I'm no longer affiliated with the LDS Church in any way, shape, or form. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of the story. There was a lot there. Um, did you want to touch on anything about your relationship with your dad? Um, Anything about Robert, or anything like significant that to your
Yeah.
story
Well,
about who you are at all?
I mean, since we're talking about the whole dad thing, so my biological died of, I think it was a drug overdose, and he was 28, and I was like 5. So I don't really. I remember him as more of like a, mm, not really a person, like a thing, almost like a figment of the memory, not like a real person, because I was so little and my parents were already split up a few years after I was born. So I don't really. Honestly, I don't remember. I got one memory of them giving me they had in as I was born in '73, so I don't remember when the original Godzilla came out, but I don't know if you want to Google it while you're on your phone, but they had
Hmm.
this they had this Godzilla, big like a 2 foot high Godzilla, and you would press the red button and his hand would come off. And so I remember him giving me that Godzilla where I pressed the red button and the hand would go off, and then he gave me a bike. And then everything else is just pictures of me and him, and I don't. That's really about it. And I was never really close to my dad's side of the family. I'm still not. I don't really talk to any of them. I don't really talk to anybody though. So that's kind of doesn't mean much of anything. The original God's there's that green one down in the corner. That Maytel Godzilla in the corner, the lower left hand corner. That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I remember giving me that. And then my mother got remarried, but my stepfather was like a Vietnam vet and like really fucked up in the head, and he kind of um was, let's just say, he was my sister's father. you know.
Yep.
I never called him dad. I never really liked him. I used to talk shit to him. He used to beat me. He was a chronic alcoholic. Blah 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 blah. He'd beat my mom. He'd beat me. He never beat my sister though. Like he would do shit like the one time, because he was just like a mean. I don't know if he was. I don't. Now that he's older, he's still alive. He's not really mean, but he would do shit like he would go. I think one time he had bought my sister like this black and white TV, and I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. He's like, this is for her. He'd give it to her and like make sure that fuck you sort of thing.
Um,
So that was my fatherly experience.
oh, sounds
Um,
like a very positive one. I remember Scotty. Like, I think we all like we didn't. None of us really didn't like him. Um, I mean, definitely when he was older, he was cooler. But I think it was a lot of probably the same like Grandpa Ron was for a really long time, coming back from Vietnam and serving over there. Like Grandpa Ron was pretty messed up. A lot of it stemmed from
yeah,
his experience in Vietnam.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Scotty was like 18 when he got drafted from like a rural southern town with no education. He was thrown into, he would talk about like the killing the kids and like that shit.
oh, he would talk about. He still talked about that even when I was a teenager.
Scotty would.
Yeah, he loved telling those stories. Like when I would go and spend the summers in Santa Cruz, like he would tell me those stories. Robert would always roast him for him.
Robert would roast everybody.
I know. Um, but yeah, Scotty is was I don't know, an interesting interesting guy.
But I mean, but actually, what happened though, is about she must have been maybe 10 years ago. He's like, Justin, this was before Robert and everything. He's like, Justin. I said, yes, Scotty, because I always harass him. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, Scotty, how may I help you? And he's like, Justin, you know, you know, uh, I'm really sorry the way I treated you. And I'm like fucking 45 by now, and I'm like, and he's like, oh, I'm like really sorry the way I treated you when you were a kid, and I just want to apologize and acknowledge it. And I'm like, thanks, Scotty. It took you 40 years. No, that's actually not what I said. But I'm like, I'm like, okay, well, thanks. That's cool. I'm not really tripping so much anymore. It's kind of whatever now,
Thanks for the trauma.
Yeah, yeah. Like, thanks for the trauma. But you saying you're sorry 45 years later is gonna change everything.
It just
I'm
makes
just
all
like,
the
yeah,
trauma go away.
yeah. So I'm like, all right, cool, man, whatever. And then as far as Robert's been gone for 4 years. I definitely Robert was kind of like, I won't say my favorite, but I kind of will say my favorite
Yeah, you
because
will.
yeah, I mean, because so like I had Rashana, I left to California, I had you, saw you for a couple weeks, never really saw you again. So like Joseph, I was with him. He was like 6 months old, but like Robert was like the first one where we got married, we got pregnant. I was with the whole pregnancy. Um, I was with him when he was born. I was with him every step of his life. And then plus by then I was like, cause I've always been kind of self-employed for most of my life. I don't think I've had a real job since my mid 20s or something.
Mm-mm.
So like I had a lot of time, so I would do all the school. I would do all the everything for like the first one was Robert, you know, and then Joseph benefited from Robert, but he was already there. And then obviously Joshua came and he kind of benefited from Robert also, you know. Because Robert was like the center of my entire fucking world. Like if he wanted to make music, so I built the studio. He wanted to do shows, so I bought some land and opened up a venue. You know, so he was like the whole center of my world because he was like he looked like me, he walked like me, he was like we thought the same way. Um, you know, we had we had a lot of the same problems, like a lot of the same problems. So if I had a problem and I saw him with the same problem, I could kind of tell him how to fix it. So that's just kind of how he rolled. So um when he left, it was, you know, it's kind of, you know, unfortunate to say the least, but you know, I mean, I kind of, instead of looking at it like, you know, like, oh, he's gone, I'm never going to see him again, I look at it like, man, I was like super fortunate to spend 21 years with this person, you know? And plus I'm like 50, you know? So he was here less than half of my life, you know? And so it's like, now I'm like, hey, and then plus like since then, I mean, I've had 5 or 6 people die that I like really cared about. Like I've had so many people die the last 4 years. It's not even a joke, you know, and not like people that I don't. Oh yeah, Bob died from down the street. I'm sorry, but like people who I knew, you know, like serious
Mm-hmm.
people, you know. So, um, now it's like you know, I'm just like, hey, I'm just really glad that I got to spend time with this person when they were here, and now they're not, and that's it. You know, no
Mm-hmm.
harm, no foul. You know, you fucking keep going, you know, and I'm definitely more cold for sure. I definitely don't tolerate a lot of stuff that I would have tolerated before him because I'm obviously more closed now, you know, since he's gone. So I don't tolerate a lot of stuff from anybody. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I kind of don't interact with a lot of people so much anymore, you know. Yeah, so it's just, you know, yeah, it's just,
Definitely.
mm,
No, and
yeah,
Robert had this really cool talent, and it was a gift and a curse. It just depends on how he wanted to use it. And you're the same way. It just depends on how you want to use it. You can either you could de-escalate any problem you want to and be reasonable and not make something happen, or you could be the voice of anti-reason and be the whole problem if you want to be, or instigate or
yeah,
initiate whatever you want. Uh, but thinking about it, you know, Robert had that gift to be able to de-escalate a situation. People would listen to him, you know, follow his lead and move things in the right direction. Sometimes in the wrong direction. Um, Mostly to like my expense a lot of the time, but that we won't get into any of that.
Well, you
Um,
should say. Well, I think you should rephrase that as that Robert could move stuff into his direction, whether it was no matter what direction it was leading it,
yeah,
whatever direction the situation Robert wanted to lead it into is where it would go.
100%, 100%,
So
and it
just
didn't
say
really
that.
matter.
So
Doesn't really matter what was the overall consequence and how it played out.
oh
Um,
no.
weren't no.
Consequences weren't they I don't think Robert had. I think he was starting to develop and learn about the consequences of your actions, of one's actions, you know, and consequences don't always have to be bad. Like
Mm-mm.
you can consequences are what happens after an action. They could be good,
Yeah.
they could be bad, they could be blah, they could be whatever. I don't know how to say bipolar 'cause I'm not a psychologist, but you know, people that have some bipolar or maybe some other sort of mental issues, you know, um, something is really, really good or really, really bad, your brain can react the exact same way,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Fight or flight kind of thing.
Well, no, I mean, it's not even that. It's like you get that same feeling, you know, that same adrenaline rush, you know, and that's kind of hard for a lot of people to deal with, you know, and kind of getting, I mean, even, you know, I got a calm myself, and I got to talk to myself a few times a day and calm myself down. You know, I almost got into it with a client last night. It would have been my first. I got into. I always get into it with my clients, not always, and I've gotten much better. But
You have.
I had I've had an opportunity to get into a. I had a great opportunity to get in to get into it with a client a couple of days ago, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to engage. I'm going to say, okay, no problem. Um, and then they asked me to do some more work, and I'm like, you know, I'm not comfortable doing any more work for you. I'm kind of good. You know, I don't want to interact with you guys anymore, and this has become a toxic situation. And I'm just going to finish up whatever I need to finish, and I'll definitely work with your new builder to kind of get everything else done that you need to have done. You know, so I did that instead of him when he talked to me like shit and going off like you mother blah 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 because you know that's kind of unproductive and this is the new year and I can't be cussing people out anymore, man.
New year, new you. New year,
I
new
mean,
you.
but
No,
no,
we
but I mean,
talked about that.
but it's not that I cuss people out. It's just that when I get fired up and I get upset, I have like this Shakespearean, condescending, very piss you off sort of way that I word sentences. And it really aggravates people and hits people's nerve. Like Jewel knows,
Oh, I
and
know.
I've actually
I,
know, and I've actually
I've
taught him how to
developed
do it. I've actually taught him
it.
how
You
to do
have,
it.
and I do it. I do it. I started doing it probably when I got to college and stuff, and I got really, really good at it. And I'm still really, really good at it. But now I'm a little bit nicer about it since I work in mental health. But I could really zing someone really nicely, but like also very much at the same time where it really does like hit their nerves and make them a bit pissed off, but also like kind of push them back and snap them back into reality. Like a little bit, and it's a blessing and a curse because it's like I can be real direct, and I could piss you off with just my words. I don't even need to throw hands or nothing. I don't need to instigate. I could talk to you super calmly. You'll think I'm a psychopath because I'll just piss you off and I'll be so calm about it.
Yeah.
Or I can get loud in your face and I'll escalate with you, no problem. But I'm gonna tell you how I feel, and you're gonna hear how I feel, and you're gonna feel like an ass because you're gonna realize that you were wrong, so it's either we're going to get to this point or we're not going to get to this point. And
And you're gonna realize that you're gonna realize that you should have never really started with me.
yeah, no, exactly. And it's like don't start because I'm gonna wait till you say some key. And I think this is one thing that you really taught me that helped me a lot when I was in doing management and stuff was to just listen. Just listen to someone. Let's listen to them go. Let them go off a little bit and let them go off and just pick out your key phrases of what they're saying and turn it right back on them. Oh, so you're feeling this way because of this. Heck, I did that today with a client at work when she was all angry and pissed off about a bunch of things, and I was like, well, no, I hear that you're angry and you're frustrated and you're stressed, and then she goes like, I'm not angry. Well, I'm like, well, at the very beginning of our conversation when we started talking, you said you were pissed off and angry, so uh, that's not true. Uh, but no, it's a great. I guess it's a great skill to have. We don't really, not anymore. We've had our moments, but as time goes on, we don't really do it to each other anymore because like we
It
know
doesn't work.
it doesn't work because we're too similar there, and we do it to each other, and it's like, well, now we're both pissed off, um,
No, I ain't
and
trying to hurt your feelings, but it doesn't work anymore.
it doesn't work anymore. It used to get me so
Oh yeah, oh
easily.
yeah, oh yeah. I
Oh
used to be able to piss you
man,
off so easily. That shit was
it
hilarious.
it
I
took
remember
one two sentences.
you're like 15, 16 years old. Oh, you used to get all mad and pissed off and flustered and be like, "Don't be so mean." To him. I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
No, it helped me grow that like thicker skin, and then like I'll talk about how I interact with my kids at work and stuff sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, I just she ran into a wall because she wasn't paying attention. I just laughed. She was fine. Like it's kind of one thing that like I've adapted into like my parenting now, where it's like, well, she's fine. Like, yeah, she's a little upset right now, but like she's okay. She's not hurt. She's not dead. She's not bleeding. Like,
No,
yeah, she just
that's
ran into a wall.
It's actually,
But
my client ran in. My client was walking up the walkway, and she just kind of was. I don't know what her problem is, but she bumped into. She wasn't drunk or nothing, but she bumped into the wall, and she goes, "Oh, I just bumped into the wall." I said, "Yeah, they just put that there." And she was like, "Huh?" And she like, "What happened?" I said, "Yeah, they just put the wall there." Oh, you know.
and it's so weird because my fiance, she'll say things now that my older one, she looks like me, but she doesn't act like me. My younger one doesn't look like me, but she acts just freaking like me. Like spin image, like she'll run into a wall and just go dunk. She'll just like make a sound effect of her running into the wall. She gets on her sister's nerves. The little one, P, gets on D's nerves so easily. And it's great and awful to watch at the same time because it's like, why are you letting a 3-year-old get at you like that? It shouldn't be like that, but it's it's super fun to watch and see their dynamic grow and develop. And it's just super funny because she's like, it's fine. Oh, I dropped my drink. Like she'll make a big old mess with like a drink or something, or break something, or something will happen, and she'll just go, "It's fine, Dada. It's fine."
We'll just
But
clean it up, whatever.
exactly, and it really makes me like think in that moment where I'm like, "Oh my god, another mess. What the hell?" Or like, "Why are you doing this thing?" It's like, really, it is fine. It's it's just fine. Like it's okay. Like it's really not a big deal. I in my head I want to make it a big deal, but it's fine. Like it's fine. It's really fine. Uh, but yeah, we definitely have that skill where we can piss people off, or we can use it to our benefit, and we can make people really like us, and enjoy us being around until they piss us off, and then they don't want to be around us anymore. Um, for me, that comes a little bit quicker because it's just I'm just like I don't. I stopped. I think it's what part of what happened with the divorce, but I stopped giving so many fucks to like other people and what other people thought and said and what their input was, and just started going like, well, what I started just doing things or saying things. It's like, well, I'm sorry for how that made them feel, but I don't control their feelings, and I would
Yeah,
get
I mean, I'm like, I tell people like, I don't. Honestly, it's not my business how you feel about me. Like, it really has absolutely nothing to do with me. It has no bearing on what I'm doing. And so, like, if you don't like me or you don't want to be around me, I don't. It's you're right. Like, it's not my business. You can do what you want.
yeah, like
I don't.
if you don't like me, cool. Like that's on you. Like I don't care. Like if you're mad or upset or offended by something I said, like my bad. Check yourself. Why are you offended? Go heal, bro. Go take care of
Yeah,
that
I mean,
thing. Like
yeah, I'm
your
really, and
feelings
I
are
mean, I'm like,
yours.
abilities, and I can do, you know.
And I think that was part of the problem. Like previously, for in my first marriage, was that I didn't conform. There's a lot of problems there, but one of the big ones was like I didn't conform to like what she wanted me to be in all these different ways. Like I didn't let myself to an extent like be a puppet and whatnot. Like
Yeah,
I
that's the same. That's my same issue too. Hold on, let me get these. I guess these dogs are fine. They're not making any noise. Look, hey, Mac, hey, Max. Oh, stop.
oh Max, I
Hey,
like Max.
Scotty.
I remember the dogs we had growing up. We had Frida. Frida was the best dog ever. She lived a very long, loving life.
Yeah, she was
Um,
16.
Frida, Scooby. You did not love Scooby. Scooby was like your least favorite. And then we had the what was the Dalmatian or the
Clyde.
Dalmatian Clyde. Frida, Clyde, and Scooby. Clyde was great. I like Clyde the
Yeah,
best.
yeah, he was a good dog.
Scooby was
Hold on,
not. He
hold
had
on.
the
This dog
build.
won't stop. Hold on. This
You're
dog
fine.
won't
I'm gonna
stop
tell the
whining.
story. I'm gonna tell the
Yeah,
story. So Frida was super old. She was just a good old sweet girl. She was super nice. She was super sweet. Frida was the best. And then Clyde was just he was energetic, but he was also just a really good fun dog. And then Scooby let's just say my dad had to build, what was that, like a 10-foot fence kennel with a top on it to make sure that he didn't jump out of the kennel, because he would jump out and then he
Oh
would get
yeah, yeah,
and then he would
yeah.
get Clyde to jump out, and then he would make Frida do something too, and then it was just the whole thing. So Scooby was kind of like Robert in that way, where if Scooby had a plan and Scooby wanted to do something and didn't really care about the consequences, Scooby would get everyone else to do it with him. I like Clyde. Clyde was a great dog. I don't know what ever happened to Clyde and Scooby. Um,
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. So I think one day Scooby was about 8, and he was fine, and then he got all these black dots on him like within like 2 days, and then he just died like instantly. I don't know what the fuck happened. And
hmm.
then Clyde was, and then Clyde was just old. He was just old. He just was old.
Oh, okay. So Clyde just got old. Frida got super old though. Clyde went like blind and could barely walk, and
Oh yeah, she
um,
was.
she lived forever. She lived forever, it
Yeah,
seemed. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, let's. Is there anything else that you want to mention about, your parenting style, relationship that we've had, or any of your relationship experience or life experience that you want to share right now with everyone?
The only thing I don't like. I'm not as a parent. I mean, I know parents are lots of times kind of want kids to do what they want them to do. And so like, I mean, and I said the same thing at Robert's funeral. I mean, I never. I mean, I'm not saying never, but I would get mad at Robert for not going to school and acting a fool and doing all the stupid shit that he did. But honestly, I would get over it pretty quick. I'd be really, really mad, and then I'd just be like, "Fuck it." But like the one thing that I tried to do with all of the kids, I'm like, I want to support whatever you're doing. You know, if you want to turn 18 and go join the military, or you want to go be a porn star, like I don't give a fuck. Like you can go do what you want to do. So I mean, I always try to support with whatever they want to do, and I always tell them, the main thing is like just fucking be nice to people. Like just treat people the way they need to be treated. Like I wouldn't get mad at. I only really got really really upset at Robert or any of the kids when they would treat people bad. That was one thing I just wouldn't tolerate. That's the one thing that really pisses me off. And other than that, support them and make sure they treat people. And it sounds cliche, but but that's my parenting skill. I didn't trip off a lot of other stuff that I probably should have. Underage drinking and carrying on and stupidity and street shit. I'm like, as long as you're safe, I support you. Try to stay in the house if you're gonna be crazy and be nice to people. And that's really all my parenting style was. So
Pretty much, and I can attest to that's true. It was pretty much work hard. If you're gonna do something, do it good, do it well, do it right, and be nice to people. Hence, why I have a
and fucking
sign.
follow through. I mean, and like fucking follow through with what
Yeah,
you start.
yeah, that was always your big thing too. Like if I was gonna start something, then to go through with it, not to back out halfway or to half-ass it or just to get it. If you're gonna do it right, follow through, see it through to the end, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
but I think I would change that a little bit now to be like, you don't really have to do it right, just fucking finish it.
True. Yeah. Make sure you can
I
pass
think I
the
would change that
inspection at
now.
least. Pass the inspection at the bare minimum. Um,
Yeah.
but dope. All right, let's jump into the YDP3. So the YDP3 are 3 questions that I ask every guest, and you're subject to the same treatment. You don't get no special treatment here, even though we're running a bit long. That's okay. First area here. The first question, not area. I say area too much at work. The first question here is, where are you rooted? What Where do your roots run? Like your core values? What makes up the roots of who you are?
Just just wake up and do as much as I can. Don't hurt anybody along the way, as much as possible.
I like it.
Sometimes I mean, like sometimes you got to step on people's neck, not like literally, but sometimes you got to hurt some feelings. But you know, I don't really understand the question 100%, but just just wake up and show up and try to, don't hurt anybody on the way and mind your own business, basically.
I like it. Like it. No, that answers it. The next question is what grounds you? Like when you're feeling all kind of stressy or upset or pissed off or whatever, what kind of brings you back down into reality?
Work. Thinking about work and working or thinking about going to work or what I'm going to accomplish the next day. That's really the only thing that drives me is going to work. That's like my biggest pleasure in life. It always has been since I was 10 years old. Call me a workaholic if you want, but that's my favorite thing to do is work. And that's just because in my line of work, I've always kind of worked for myself, and it's not because I like to work so much, but that's basically like there's very few things there's very few things, if any, you can control in this life. You can't control your job, you can't control your kids, you can't control your wife, you can't control your animals. There's really nothing you can control, most of yourself, but even then there's with limitations that you can control your whole person. But with me going to work and always kind of working for myself and always kind of doing what I want to do, I can control my own world. I can control when I wake up. I can control when I go to store. I can control when I do this, when I can do that. The minute I leave work or the minute I stop going to store, then I'm kind of back here in influence land with other people. So that's why I like to go to work, because it's my area, it's my safe spot, and I can do what the fuck I want to do for as long as I want to do it. So that's what keeps me grounded.
I like it. All right, last one here is let's say I don't know you, you don't know me, or someone random walks up to you. Let's say your younger self walks up to you. Younger Justin walks up to you, that 21-year-old self you that went through that mental break and just going through a really dark time. But let's say that's a you don't know, but someone going through that same thing, okay? I'm gonna
Mm,
give I'm gonna let you have two pieces of advice that you're telling that young dad or that young Justin who's just in a dark place, struggling with life, mental health, young fatherhood. What are your you get two pieces of advice that you get to tell that random dad uh, to help him to try to bring him out of it. What are your you get two. I usually give people one, so you're special. You get two.
I mean, the one thing about the mental breakdown, and I've had more than a couple of them, but I don't want to focus on that so much. But my other son, he's like full on schizophrenic and has been since he was like 14. He's 24 now, hasn't left the house, but I don't want to get to that either. But the one thing I learned from him is that like he's he's okay with being him. He's okay with being the yelling, screaming wild man taking 3, 4 showers a day. He still smiles being him, even though he's not like everybody else. So the one, I don't really have two, but the one piece of advice that I would have gave that younger Justin is like, hey man, okay, well, you got a little excited, you had this mental breakdown, you did some stupid shit, you reacted wrongly, but you know what? That's you. Accept yourself and fucking deal with it and loop it into your personality, make it part of your person, use it. Don't If you get that energy and that frustration that kind of makes you want to leap and do things that you probably shouldn't do or react abnormal from societal norms, then just kind of know you're doing it, but just be okay and know that you're doing it and just accept you for who you're doing. And if it's not something that you want other people to see, then it's okay. It doesn't matter. I would just tell the younger Justin to accept you for who you are, and these are all your gifts, and this is what you're doing, and this is how you react. Just accept yourself for you. You're fucking great. It doesn't matter anything else. And don't
And
let other people tell you that, and don't let other people tell you that you're crazy or you're something that you're not. I mean, even if you are, it doesn't matter. Just accept yourself for being crazy and accept yourself for being a little slow. I'm not I'm not slow. I would certainly hope not, but
yeah,
I'm sure there are some people that may be a little slow, and that's okay. You're probably good at something else. So accept yourself for whoever you are, whatever your faults are, whatever your strengths are, whatever your weaknesses are, whatever it is. Accept yourselves for you and roll as such, and don't worry about everybody else.
100%. because you're fucking great, and
Yeah.
everyone else can get fucked pretty much. Um, well, Dad, I appreciate your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. In this kind of setting, I appreciate everything you've done for me, being my dad, being there for all the ups and downs through high school and the college, through my marriage, the divorce, and for the grandkids and everything that you continue to do for myself, for my siblings, and for all of us that all the people that rely on you, look to you, and need your support for whatever aspect they do. So thank you for all that you do for your family and for your community, for your team that works for you, and just for all the good that you have given to the world, because you've given tons of it to my world, to the girls' world. The girls love to try to call their pops. Uh, and love when they get in the car and they're like, "Can we call pops? Can we call pops? Can we call pops?" And they love to try to talk to pops, even though pops can't say their names right.
I
And
didn't know that. I didn't know that names and birthdays were requirements of communicating with your children and grandchildren. I thought you said, "Hey, you know."
well, lo and behold, it's important to know, your kids, their names, and it's pretty important to know when they were born versus their
Oh
their
God,
stepbrother
no.
kind of thing. Anyways,
Uh,
but on that, thanks so much. We'll catch you next week, and we're excited for the next 100 episodes.
okay, deuces.